Hi, today we're going to do an exercise from a book called Paint Yourself Calm by Jean Haynes. And the lesson is going to be about color flow and controlling the paint, or not controlling the paint as it may be. We're going to practice it's being loose with your paint and using plenty of water, and what kind of effects the paint will make by itself if you just let it go. And letting it go, that's a great thing, right? And the other thing we're going to do is, it doesn't matter what colors I use. Whatever colors you want to use, it's up to you. You just do whatever you feel like doing. We're going to look at how you can create a very loose landscape just with letting the paint run and do what it wants to do. So we're going to look at a couple of different techniques for doing that. So first, I want you to load your brush. By load your brush, I mean get lots of water in there and pigment. And we're going to look at also the differences between the outcome of a painting that's long and narrow and a painting that's more square. So let's begin. First, I'm going to look and see where I think I want my horizon line. Since the format is long and narrow, I'm going to make my horizon line somewhere up here. Now you could do just the opposite. So I'm going to have like lots of land here and a small sky. But you could do, like, if you were looking far away, it might look like that. You could do the opposite. You could do less land and big sky. What you really kind of don't want to do is to put your horizon line right in the middle, because it divides your paper too equally and it's just not as pleasing a composition. So I'm going to load my brush. First, I'm going to dip it in water. I'm going to give it a good dip in the water, and then I'm going to take yellow and load it right up. And then I'm going to just paint. I'm not going to cover the whole piece of paper. Because then I'm going to go back with some water. And this could be like a cornfield or a wheat field or anything like that. So then I'm going to clean my brush, just swish it around, and keep it loaded with just water. Then see, I have these edges where I didn't wet, the paper's not wet, and there's no paint there. And I'm going to just wet that section and let the paint run wherever it wants to. And it usually takes its time, but you should be able to begin to see the paint move from the wet paper to the dry paper. Sometimes you have to just stick a little water in the yellow too. I'm going to do it, maybe you might be able to see it a little bit better even though with the blue. So I'm going to take some blue up here. And the sky is always darker at the top, so I'll just stick it right there on the top. And now I'll let the paint and the water do their work by just adding some water and let it drift down. See how it's moving? It's moving all on its own. You can help it along if you want by adding a drop of water here or there. Oh, yeah, there we go. For the sake of time, I really wanted it to happen a little faster for you. And you can tip the paint. And if it's not really flowing the way you want it to, you can help it along. You can decide if you really want to leave that. And you can let it come right on down into your foreground too, because the sky is usually reflected in the landscape somewhere. That almost looks like a rainstorm to me. And you could take another color. I think I'm going to take a little bit of like an Indian red and put some variation in there. I'll just dab it on there and then just add some water. And then you get a slightly different mid-ground. If I wanted to add like a tree line at the horizon, I might just take, let's see, a little bit of sky color and mix it with a little bit of green. I should be showing you this. Mix it with a little bit of green. That's the sky color. And just go, let's see what happens here. Maybe a little bit of darker blue, because the tree line is frequently a little darker at the bottom. Now I just leave that alone for a minute and just let it do its thing. So then on this piece of paper, I'm just going to find my horizon line. Maybe we'll do the opposite this time. Maybe we'll make a big sky and a low horizon line. And again, I'm going to charge my brush with water and pigment. And just go right across the top there. And then just let it come down and get lighter at the horizon line. Then a lot of times, if I want to make a cloud in the sky, I will take a paper towel. And just take some of that back out. And clouds are not usually pure white. So that kind of makes some sky. Now for the bottom half, I think that I'll use some of this beautiful quinacridone gold, like a golden field in the fall. And I'll just let it go up into the sky. Maybe a little red. Really get my brush wet. Maybe it's a field of poppies. Then I'm gonna just make them a little more intense by really getting a lot of pigment on there. A lot of pigment. And then I will carefully, hopefully, tap my brush. Oop. And that will go where it wants to, apparently. That didn't go exactly where I wanted it to. So we'll make a stormy sky. This is also a lesson in happy accidents. How's that? Or a sunset. Maybe it's a sunset. It's just a matter of rolling with the punches, right? Let's see what I can do with this. Get some green, get some blue. Make a horizon line. Let's let some of these come up in here. Maybe we have a little pine tree. When you're painting wet into wet, a lot of times it becomes a matter of what can I do with that? So that's what we do. Just figure out how to make it work. Or at least how to have fun with it. Oop. we'll set those aside and see what they do. And then we'll do something else. Now this is a larger piece, and I'm going to wet the whole page. Just wet it. Maybe I'll just use this spray bottle. That'll be easier. And then I'm going to just paint the whole thing. Paint the whole thing that quinacridone gold. But I need a little more on my palette. So I'm just going to do this. Now, the last two times I put the pigment on dry paper. And this time I'm putting it on wet paper. And it doesn't have to be even. Actually, it's more interesting if it's not even. So I'm just putting the pigment on and keeping the paper wet. Not really sure what's up with this paper. It's different though. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm going to just take some blue and green that I've mixed together. I'm going to make the horizon line, and then I'm just going to let it do whatever it does. And then I think I'll make it a little darker in spots. I'm going to let some water drip down into it. It's kind of interesting to see how it develops on its own. You can help it along, but don't dry it. Let it dry on its own. And see how my paper's getting all wrinkly because it's very wet. That's why I have this blue tape. It's just regular painter's tape. And I tape it down because the paper will crinkle when it's wet. But if you tape it down, when it dries, it will dry flat. And I do have some examples of everything that I did. This one, I did this earlier, and it turned out like that. You can see how it just kind of made blooms all the way across, but I just let it dry completely on its own. And that's what it ended up doing. And that just looks kind of like a horizon line far away. And then you can do other things, and you could add, then begin to add things down here, wherever you want your center of interest to be. You could paint over this, and just add to it and make it your own, or you can leave it very simple. And this is the result. A different result than this. This is very much more intense. I added a lot more water to this and just let it go. But this looks misty. You can use this technique to make a misty horizon. You know, some atmospheric effects. And I did add some salt down here, and I think that Jan did that in another video. And it helps make some texture in the field area. And then last but not least, this is the example of the long narrow composition. And see, that looks far away, and almost, that looks like a rainy day. I think I had rain on my mind today. So yeah, that's, and you see that the ones that I just did now are very different from these. And when they dry, I'll show you how they turned out the next time. Okay, keep painting.